And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, the three-eyed master of dad jokes, good brother Joe.
Hello, everyone.
It's a bit of a problem when I have a Joe and a Joel in the same week.
Then obviously I must be good brother Jojo!
No. I think if you tried posing like that, you'd end up breaking your back.
I can.
That depends on the JoJo.
I can also do the Dio pose.
I found out there's a whole school that is teaching people JoJo poses in some part of Japan.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna pose, do it right.
That, and I suppose holding those poses would be good exercise.
I mean, it's either that or you teach them Sentai roll calls, you know?
I would just say go straight to the source. Have them in Kabuki classes.
Well, yes.
I would
wait.
only...
You said Kabuki. For a moment there, I almost said Hibiki.
Yeah. I would only go with... teach them Sentai roll calls on one condition. They have to learn to deal with the explosions.
Well, I mean, you just don't look at them, obviously.
Yes, how could I not bring up RP? I'm asking, okay, what's with the explosion behind me? But so obviously we are still in our one-shot-a-thon. And hello there, Bad Toad. I see you. Hope your night's going well.
We perceive you, Bad Toad.
Yep. It seemed like Sizer might have been able to make it at first, but he's dealing with a cold, and he just didn't have the energy, so he's sitting this one out, unfortunately.
You know, fair enough. He gave us warning.
Mm-hmm. And for the two that we have, one of them is one that I originally was going to do last week. Then the division showed up and completely upended my plans. So I ended up kicking it down. And the other one I was already planning on doing, and because of the requests that Joe made for later this month, it just accelerated plans.
Listen. I just happen to love Westerns almost as much as I like any other genre.
Mm-hmm. But for this first one...
Especially the cheesy ones.
For this first one, in the interest of full disclosure, this is by our good friend Heron, also known as Alexander Mark Yanis. Him and his father put this together. I did back the game on Kickstarter, and I did interview him in the past. He's been on the show a few times. I've done interviews with him for different projects and have had calls going back and forth on certain designs. This is Mighty Heroes of Old, a demigod TTRPG. This was done in collaboration with his father, uh, and is pretty much doing high fantasy, but well, instead of being your level 1 fighter who can take a couple hits before dropping, you are, well, demigods.
Who could take a couple of hits before dropping?
Mm-hmm. Uh, I find it funny that there's been this whole debate about whether or not D&D characters should be heroes or superheroes. Which, if you don't want people being superheroes, then don't draw inspiration from the mythic equivalent of superheroes.
Oh, what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Presentation.
there's this idea that you shouldn't have player characters get too powerful or level up too much. But I always found that silly. Especially since the argument is usually built around, oh, if you have them at a certain power level, then they're not going to be challenged anymore. Which I look at that as a case of taking an incorrect approach. Because as a GM, you are equal parts referee and film director as you are the provider of the challenge. And if you don't give them the ability to feel like larger than life characters, they're gonna feel like they're not progressing. And as I mentioned, if you don't want people to be superhero like, then why are you drawing upon the likes of Heracles or the Odyssey as mythological inspirations? Or don't even get me started on the craziness that you see in Irish myth. What with wrestling a fucking river?
So what's the DC to wrestle a river? Like, do I have to go by standard grappler rules, or?
But I will note, when it comes to the art style, I kept getting reminded of ElfQuest.
I mean, I'm looking at this base image here, and for some reason, I'm seeing less ElfQuest and more Heroes of Might and Magic.
As long as I'm not dealing with the genies again, I can go with that.
Not this time.
Sorry,
You're only having to deal with the halflings.
I can deal with halflings. I don't want to deal with those genies again. You played Heroes 2, you know how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the majority of the design was done by the elder Yanis Anthony, with a lot of help from Alexander. And I do want to read off the thank you that they put early on.
Okay.
From the very first time I picked up a D20 back in 1974, tabletop role-playing games have been a joyful and enduring part of my life. For over 5 decades, I've ventured through countless dungeons, battled dragons, and shared laughter and adventure around the table with friends and family. These games have not only shaped my imagination, they've shaped who I am. Creating Mighty Heroes of Old with my son, Alexander Mark Yanis, has been a dream come true. As a lifelong gamer, I've often found myself tweaking and modding systems to better fit the stories we wanted to tell. When Alexander and I came up with the idea of creating a new fantasy TTRPG for his gaming company, I saw it as a rare and beautiful opportunity. To share something new with the world, to give back to a hobby that has given me so much, and to build something meaningful together as father and son. This game is born from love. Love of storytelling, love of play, and love of family. It's also built on the shoulders of giants. I want to thank many incredible games that inspired us. D&D, every edition. It also means he's giving credit to Fourth, which some people would call blasphemy, but I say, pay me. Index Card RPG, Maze Rats, Knave, Cairn, Morkborg, Crown and Skull, Shadowdark, Mouse Ritter, Star Wars, West End Games, and so much more. Each brought something unique and special to the table and helped shape Mighty Heroes of Old in its own way. I also want to thank the passionate, thoughtful creators and YouTubers who continue to inspire and challenge us to be better game masters, players, and designers. Professor Dungeon Master, Ben Milton, Seth Skorkowski, Henrikin Fernell, Bob the World Builder, Sly Flourish, and Kelsey Dion. Your wisdom, creativity, and encouragement have meant more than you know. Finally, to my family, my fellow adventurers, you are the bravest heroes. Thank you for the laughter, the epic fails, the clutch nat 20s, and most of all for sharing this journey with me. Here's to the mighty heroes of old, and the ones still to come. With gratitude and joy, Anthony Yanis.
That's very touching.
But after that, we do have the table of contents, and I do want to check something. Unfortunately, there are no bookmarks in the PDF.
Darn. It's a relatively short PDF, so...
Yeah. But... some parts we'll be going through a bit quicker than others, but you are meant to be the offspring of gods and mortals. They cite Achilles, Gilgamesh, Hercules or Heracles, Perseus, Sun Wukong, and the like. Although Sun Wukong wasn't exactly a demigod in the traditional sense.
Not really.
He was just a
unless you're telling me I can steal 3 different flavors of immortality.
He was just the universe's biggest pest.
More biggest troll.
I can go with that. The only reason and the only person who was able to out troll him is the Buddha.
Yeah, but nobody gets one over on the Buddha.
Of course, if I give too much thought about that, I'm probably going to give him a headache. Now, some of the other members of that party in Journey to the West, I could see them leaning more into demigods or semi-devils.
Like Pigsy.
Yeah. Pigsy or Gojo.
And eventually, even the Tang Monk.
Yep. But then goes into the Call of Heroism. The gods are watching your move to see if you uphold the values of heroism. If you live up to your potential, your name and legacy will be sung by bards in epic poems. Your divine mission is to aid mortals and to please the gods.
Not necessarily in that order.
And in doing so, you'll be able to wield powers that help you fend off the corruption of a being known as the Entity. Embark on epic quests to slay corrupt legendary beasts, navigate the relationship between gods, mortals, and the temptation of corruption, and earn divine accolades for heroic acts while maintaining your renown among the people of the world.
That third one just sounds like politics.
So it does go into the Great Corruption.
What's so great about it?
The Call of the Divine, as well as a sidebar about how much corruption. Which is basically the kind of corruption that you should have is going to be up to the table. But then we do have a bit of a thing on terminology. Basically, the lexicon section. And this is going to be a 2d6 system. I will get that 2d6/3d6. I will get that out of the way right now. But when it comes to the terms here, a lot of these will be getting into in the throughout this. Then go into required materials. Uh,
I'm amused at one of these.
Phone.
Your phone. If you don't have 3 6-sided dice or more, you can use a phone, folks.
Mm-hmm. So we're not. So the approach is roll 2d6, add the appropriate attribute. By default, if the total's 7 or higher, then you succeed. If you fall short, then you fall short. It does not use a traditional skill list. Instead, players describe their actions, and the Oracle, basically the GM, decides which attribute applies. On some cases, you might have an opposed roll, where both sides roll 2d6, highest roll wins. If the rolls are tied, the defender wins. And if you have advantage or disadvantage, it works the way you think it would. Add another die and drop another. Either the highest or the lowest, depending on which version of it you have. And of course, advantage and disadvantage both cancel each other out. So if you've got advantage, roll 3d6, drop the lowest. If you've got disadvantage, then you're dropping the highest. Now, when it comes to the attributes, we only have 3 of them here. Strength, dexterity, and willpower. But if an attribute goes to -3, death is inevitable. We're dealing with straight modifiers, not ability score and then converting that into a modifier. So strength, dexterity, and will are fairly self-explanatory. I do like that they put in a sidebar that if you have an attribute or two at 0, it's not a deal breaker. 0 is meant to be peak mortal. Which it is good to put that in there, because a lot of people look at a 0 in that sense, or a lack of a modifier, as a debilitating issue. And in this case, it's not that debilitating. But then they get into combat, which, again, I do have to say I really love the character art style we have with this. But first part
really nice.
Yep, first part of combat is initiative. First going which side goes first. Both sides roll d6. Whoever rolls the highest takes their turn. If it's a tie, heroes act first. And as far as who takes the first turn based on side, that is determined by that, side. Once all from one side acts, the other side takes over. Self-explanatory, you keep alternating.
They use the close to out of range system for their movement. Nice.
Yep, I'll get to that in a second. If one side is going to be ambushed, you can attempt to ambush the enemy by using the highest dex bonus and/or any bonuses to stealth or an ancestry or calling. If you fail the roll initiative as normal. If you succeed, automatically win initiative and gain advantage on all attack/power rolls during the first round. If you ambush separately from the party, you could start a different zone if the Oracle lets you. In combat, if you meet the prerequisites for an ambush while in combat, gain advantage. Then for your turn, you can move one zone and take one action and as many free actions as you're capable of, but never the same one twice. And yeah, with movement and zone, it is a broader approach, one that's going to be very familiar to folks who've played stuff like Savage Worlds or Genesis, this is not doing the traditional grid combat. Which this is trying to go for cinematic, and that approach is certainly a way to do it. I do like the mount movement option because everybody wants to fight on a horse if you have an open enough area.
Mhm. Oh, look, it's a Skaven.
Mm-hmm. But if you have difficult terrain, uh, you gain disadvantage to most rolls as long as you're in that zone. Though you can get rid of the disadvantage by using equipment as a free action. Once used, that equipment is gone and can only be used during that combat. And we have a case of what equipment you can remove to negate difficult terrain, which is an interesting way to do it. It does mean that if you're in unfavorable terrain, you're not completely screwed, but you do have to pay a price for it. Except for lava.
Hmm.
There's no mundane equipment to remove that kind of terrain.
I'm amused that it's only 1 damage, but at the same time, I'm guessing 1 damage is a lot in this.
I would say yes. Then when it comes to actions and effects, obviously for attack rolls, it's 2d6 plus an attribute. For melee, you're using strength. For ranged, you're using dex. And for specific powers, you're using will. If you do ranged attacks at an enemy that's close, it's made with disadvantage. This is compared to the protection score of an enemy. And protection is basically your armor. You start with 7, which makes sense. 7 seems to be the default target number.
Hmm?
Let's see, light armor adds 1. A shield adds another 1. Medium armor adds 2. Heavy armor adds 3. Usually, medium and heavy armor has some sort of drawback for the fact that it gives you higher defense. But we also have an epic scale optional rule. Consider counting every minion enemy as 10 narratively / aesthetically. Sure, this will have no gameplay impact, but there's something to be said about heroes defeating 10 enemies per attack. As a fan of Musou games, I can relate.
I can also relate. You are truly a hero of the 3 kingdoms.
But most one-handed weapons and powers deal 1 damage, two-handed deals 2 damage, unarmed attacks deal 1 damage unless the enemy has protection 9 or higher. And I do like this when it comes to hit points. When a hero is slain, the player creates a new hero who re-enters the story as soon as possible. And at the start of your turn, if you're at 0 or fewer HP, make a fate roll. Roll 2d6. On a 7 or higher, you regain 1 HP but remain unconscious for a number of minutes equal to your fate roll. If the roll fails, you die. Allies can use an action to give you advantage on the fate roll. So you're not dead, but you're also not going to be jumping right back into the fight. There's a part of me that's thinking it'd be really funny if you immediately come back up with 1 HP if you beat the fate roll, and somebody just keeps getting their ass kicked over and over and keep coming back.
You know, that has I'm trying to think of the right character for this. Who keeps on getting their ass kicked but keeps on standing up? Hmm. For some reason, I want to say Joxer the Mindy, but that's not right.
Uh, there was also there was also I forget his name, but he was a supporting character in that NBC Constantine who kept getting back up because he had so many souls. And I'd be remiss if we did not bring if we did not bring up Dan Kuroto.
That's true. That's true. After all, he is a dangerous zombie.
Yeah, uh, sure he'd prefer being called God Dan Kuroto.
He preferred to be called a lot of things. I'm not going to call him that.
Mm-mm. But then we have grappling. It is a strength versus strength check. Uh,
Okay, so what kind of strength does a river have?
or or the target could use dexterity instead. Uh, Upon success, choose one effect. Either break grapple, so end an existing grapple. Immobilize, they can't move. Trip, the target falls prone. Disarm, the target cannot use one weapon for one turn. Or choke, also known as pulling an Atlanta, also known as pulling an Arsenal,
Mm-hmm.
also known as pulling a Team Liquid. I can keep going with this. Uh, Deal 1 non-lethal damage. If their HP reaches 0, the target falls unconscious but does not die. Note, you cannot grapple creatures 2 sizes larger than you. I mean, it's what you'd expect, but a lot of times when grapple rules come up, I often wish there was a means of throwing.
But can I grapple items?
I mean,
At which
yeah,
point, can I dual wield great swords by grappling one in each hand?
no. That is like saying, can I backstab the book because it's got a spine, so it has anatomy.
I mean, that's one way to mark a book.
But if you roll boxcars, you trigger a God Hand. You can immediately take another action, or you can reactivate a calling power that has already been used.
No, they may also reactivate a calling power.
Yep.
It's not
My
one or
bad.
the other. It looks like it's both.
Yeah, it is both. My bad. Um, but can I kick somebody into the Milky Way,
Hmm.
or do a fake out and kick them in the balls?
Why not both? Kick them in the balls so hard you hit them into the Milky Way.
Uh, but then we have healing. You regain 1 HP after a meal and 6 hours of sleep. Medicine restores 1 HP once per day. 24 hours of rest in a safe haven restores all HP. Healing potions restore 1d6 HP. And of course, you cannot exceed your starting total.
I'm sure we'll eventually get into HP rolls.
Yep. Then they do go into the status effects. We have disease, entangled, fear, paralyzed, poison, and prone. And then we get into hero creation. It is interesting going into combat and the mechanics before character creation, but it's not unheard of. So the first thing you pick is a calling, which I guess you could kind of say is akin to class, but you're gonna see that there's a significant difference between a fantasy character class in the usual sense and these callings.
Wait a minute, hold on. I don't like the wording on this because we haven't even gone into Ancestry. Yet it says, just as your ancestry grants 3 ancestral powers, they do? Where does
Yeah,
it say that?
yeah, it may have been better to introduce ancestry first and then introduce calling.
That
Uh,
might have been the original goal.
but
But you get
each sorry.
10 calling powers? Sorry, you're fine.
Yeah. So your calling gives you an attribute bonus that stacks with bonus from your ancestry. You get your starting HP, your weapon and armor restrictions if needed. This does not restrict you from carrying other equipment outside of your weapon and armor. Then your starting equipment. Uh, then you get 10 unique calling powers. Each one will be under a frequency that lets you know how often you can use it. Passive, it's always in effect. Once per turn, self-explanatory. Once per combat, also self-explanatory. Once per day, also
Also
self-explanatory.
self-explanatory.
And once per session, all self-explanatory. Though they do note that once per session can alternatively be once per 3 real-life hours of play.
So, like, if you're doing a really long play for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. There is also the action type when it comes to powers, either a free action, a action, or a reaction. If the power requires a roll.
Here we
If
go. Reactions.
Mhm.
Well, at least they don't call them bonus actions.
Yeah. Though I do like that it makes clear that you can use the reaction out of turn so long as the trigger happens. So we're not doing the whole you only get 1 reaction per turn. No, as long as it keeps getting triggered, you can still use it. There might be other restrictions, like if it's a once per combat kind of thing, but there's nothing saying, oh, I can't use my reaction here. Maybe I'll need it for later.
Nothing worse than saving something for later and then never getting to use it.
Mm-hmm. But then they go into the callings. The first one we have is Astral Shifter, which Astral Shifter feels like
cool.
a rogue who actually can win a fight. I do
Divine
like
instruments of foresight, balance, and disruption. Interesting.
I do like that they put in the difficulty tier for each of them. But they get a bonus to will, and they have 4 starting HP. So you were kind of right with what you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that your HP is not going to be all that high. But your passive ability is Phase Blade. As a reaction, when attacking, you can ignore enemies' armor bonus for protection. So the trigger for that is when you're attacking, obviously. So all of your attacks ignore armor.
So why is that a reaction and not a passive?
I think it's because there has to be a action entry, because there is for all the others.
Oh no, it's already a passive. What do you mean it's a reaction? Like I mean, no. So it should be a free action then, like because it's always happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just
I don't
bothers
speak
me.
Anglish. Uh, but then we have the once per combat abilities, which
Okay, okay. Astral Link looks good. It's a will ability.
yep. Then dimensional flicker, whereas the reaction you can reduce all incoming damage by half.
Very
Let's
nice.
see, ethereal chains. They have to do a will 9 roll every turn, or remain paralyzed. Puppet master, so you are possessing someone else. You also get once per session abilities like astral portal, as well as astral projection, psychic wave, redirection, and void rift.
Hmm.
But then we have the avatar. So actually, I think that's
Yeah.
avatar.
No, yeah, that's Avatar.
Yep. Uh, will plus
This one
1.
has less starting HP.
Yep. And can only use one-handed weapons.
I think that's because they're spell slinging.
Yeah, they are, which is probably, and it outright says in the difficulty thing they have the lowest HP of the callings.
But their damage is godlike. Get it? Don't look at me like that. That's what it's written.
An elemental bolt as an action, which is will versus protection. Deal 2 damage with an element of your choice. They only have one once per combat ability, which is elemental blast. Deal damage up to 3 targets up to near. Then several once per day abilities: conjuration, elemental summon, illusions, invisibility, and once per session being things like abjuration, alchemy, elemental storm, and fly. Avatar feels like a souped up version of a sorcerer.
You know, what bothers me is that a lot of their abilities is basically the name of a spell school from D&D. Like, I'm not exactly too sure if that was on purpose
I think it
or
was.
not.
Then we have the Chronomancer. Okay, we're messing around with time magic. Nice. They get +1 to will. They have 4 HP.
Only use one-handed weapon, so that must be a thing with all of their spell slingers.
They have to have an
hourglass.
Yeah, which they have to carry. Difficulty is advanced. So they're, as a free action, they can take 2 actions in a round. With double
No, look at this. Look at this. It's a free action. I don't know. I don't know.
Let's see, once per combat, decelerate, force one target to go last. This can be used on an enemy's turn. Foresight, gain advantage on your next roll. Time dilation, choose a zone up to near. Enemies in that zone have disadvantage on their rolls for 1 turn. Temporal Echo, you briefly call upon the ghosts of a timeline that never was. What, you call in a Majin?
Probably.
Perform 2 non-combat actions. Echoes of these actions manifest, resolving as if they were performed by alternate versions of yourself.
Okay, alright.
Let's see. Ageless, you age at half the normal rate. You can also slow down death. Do not make a fate roll for a number of rounds equal to your will. Echoes of the future. You can make a echo of a future version of yourself or an ally to fight or assist for 1 round. This is a projection that can perform 1 action. After that, they fade away. The actions of the echo do not affect the hero in your timeline, but the action performed by the future version does take place as if it were real.
So, can I have my Echo of the Future do a temporal echo?
And chronostasis, you paralyze an enemy for 1 turn. That target is immune to damage, but they also can't interact. See, temporal shift, you can undo an action. uh, and time slip, if an attack hits you, you can move to near. This will cause an attack to miss you if the attack did not also affect the zone you move to.
Aw, they don't have a time warp. I guess I can't do a jump to the left.
Then we have Fate Weavers. You get Dex +1. Starting HP is
I do
4.
want to say, just before we continue, the Chronomancer has almost entirely free abilities. So, like, what actions are they taking? Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. But, and we have the Fate Weaver, as mentioned before, who their whole thing is, well, messing around with fate. So their passes are Dancing Blades. Basically, they're going to be better at dual wielding. Also, you can make a free action ranged attack versus one near enemy at the cost of a dagger in your equipment you wish to use. Doing so will remove the dagger or one-handed weapon that you attack with, used from your equipment permanently as if it were consumable. And Jinx Aura. All close enemies' attacks are at a disadvantage against you.
Nice.
Let's see, then Gambler's Strike. If you win initiative, your first attack causes 1d6 damage. Calling powers and advantage cannot be used to increase this. It will always do a minimum of 2.
That's a lot.
Then we have Shadow Traveler. You can step into a shadow within close range and emerge from another shadow far away. Your next attack does +1 damage. Then Aura of Fortune. Choose any zone for 1 combat. All heroes within that zone's dice that come up as 1 count as 2 instead.
Nice, especially on a D6 system.
See, Disguise, you alter your appearance. You're still humanoid, small through large, but you can't duplicate a known person. Then Pool of Fate, you have 7 luck that can be distributed as you like to increase any rolls you make or damage you deal. You can also use this luck to reduce attacks against you. This cannot be combined with any calling powers and can't be regained by God Hand. However, you may regain +1 luck up to 7 maximum anytime a God Hand is rolled by anyone.
Ooh.
Let's see. Stroke of Luck, turn a failed roll into a success. Trickster's Dice can roll 4d6 instead and take the best 2 results.
Interesting.
Veil of Shadows. If you're in dim light or shadows, you can disappear completely for up to 2d6 minutes outside of combat, or the duration of combat, so long as you don't attack. Your next attack after invisibility gets +1 damage.
These guys are also mostly free abilities.
But then we have Paragon, which feels like a demigod version of a paladin, if it's going to have that name.
True.
You get +1 to
Isn't
will.
that what that other system we did? Steel?
Sensor. You're thinking of the sensor from Draw Steel.
Draw Steel. Yes.
This is our first beginner calling. Let's see, they have Holy Weapon, so you do +1 damage against corruption monsters, as long as you do not have corruption. and Righteous Strike. If you succeed in an attack, you may heal yourself or an ally 1 HP up to near. Then Bless. Once per combat, give yourself or one ally +1 to attacks. Things like Provision, so purify food and water. Sacrifice, heal 1 HP for each HP you're willing to take in damage. Then once per session you can do Angelic, so become a being of light with a +2 to all attributes. Divine Health, remove a status effect. Divine Intervention, call a god to intervene on your behalf. Holy Aura, enemies are at disadvantage to attack you for a few rounds. You also ignore Darkness. And Invoke Authority, cancel any power that was just used. You may do this as a reaction or against an ongoing power effect. Paragon pretty much is a paladin. A demigod version of a paladin, but a paladin nonetheless. And then we have Vanguard, which has the highest HP we've seen at 5.
So far, yeah.
Yep. As strength.
They're definitely a tank.
As strength 1. They seem to be the only ones who can use heavy armor.
Also, look at that shield. It looks like it's stained glass. What is up with those colors?
It probably isn't stained glass, but there are some interesting colors for coat of arms on shields, so I'm willing to go with it. Plus, for something like this, it adds to the very comic books like aesthetic.
Also, I think this is our first
Paragon
beginner-friendly class.
was also beginner-friendly.
The Paragon was also one, yeah. So is this our fighter equivalent?
It looks like it is. And but this is very much a tank.
Oh yes.
Especially since it is about getting in close and making the enemy deal with you. It also, even though you can use any weapon, it's very clear that you're going to be at your best if you have if you're doing weapon and board, especially with things like shield bash. But then we have the Warborn, which is most definitely the Barbarian. And this
Also
one has the highest
beginner-friendly.
HP at 6.
Oh, yeah. But that's also because it doesn't have as heavy of armor, I think.
And it is with stuff they have a lot more passive effects. But I do like how they handle rage. For every 3 HP of damage you have taken, gain +1 to melee attacks. And of course the good old Whirlwind. But it is clear that Warborn is going to be at its best if you're using a two-handed weapon. Then we have Wild Strider, that's definitely our ranger.
We're back down to 4 HP. Advanced class looks like they generally focus on ranged weapons.
So, as their passives, they can ignore difficult terrain and get protection when in difficult terrain.
Nice.
Let's see, they have Root Bind, so they can entangle one close or near enemy. Quick Shot, if you win initiative, deal 2 damage to one enemy in any zone within line of sight before any turn is taken.
Very nice. Let's
see, Rain of Arrows, make an infinite number of ranged attacks in one zone to different enemies until you fail an attack roll, or until there are no new enemies to attack in that zone. Uh, summon a spirit of the wild. Uh, can create medicinal herbs. You also can communicate with animals. Uh, you can Culling is basically marking. And feral. You also get feral form. So this is equal parts ranger and druid, which would
I'm not
make
angry at.
mhm, which druid ends up stepping on the toes of rangers a lot in a lot of fantasy games anyways, so I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then we have ancestry, and if I'm being honest, ancestry and calling should have probably been swapped.
Yeah. Froggy.
Yep. So we have the Anorans, basically frog folk, who have amphibious, incredible leap, and long tongue. Though though they don't have to be frogs, they could be reptilian, fish-like, basically any sort of amphibian or reptilian creature.
Go with whatever your heart desires.
Then we have beastkin. Uh, and I do
Oh
like that
look,
they
more beast tongue.
Yep. I do like that they made clear you don't have to go with the Minotaur approach. But I like the Deadly Claws ability they have here. Rolling 2 of the same number doubles your damage. Unarmed attacks damage protection 9+.
Because before unarmed attacks, you couldn't damage them if their protection was 9.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, it needs to be over 9 from what it looks like.
It just means that if they have over 9, you can still damage them.
Oh, yeah. That makes a lot more sense. And you gain a permanent +1 to HP.
Yep. And we have Dwarf, which is going to be doing dwarven things.
+1 protection, +4 inventory slots. Okay.
Then we have Elf, which is going to be doing elf things.
Speak all sentient languages. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep. Then we have gnomes, who can mess around with armor, get magic resistance, and mimics echoes. Twice per day when an enemy damages you, they must roll a d6. On a roll of 4 to 6, they hit an illusion that disappears instead of you.
Oh my god, they're ninjas.
Then halflings. So they have stuff like hard to catch, hearty meal, and tail for the road. I do like that each of the races was created by the gods to reflect some kind of aspect or some kind of intent. But then we have good old human.
Except for humans, yeah.
Which just have the destined power. So once per session,
it's a free recharge.
Yep.
Oh.
It is.
Sorry.
It is very much a free recharge. See, then we have the Verdant. So tree folk.
I am Groot.
Mm-hmm. See, they can speak to plants. They can heal HP if they're in open air or sun for an hour. And they have advantage against entangled and prone.
Okay. So I'm guessing you don't really get a lot of actions that do damage aside from like physical attacks thus far?
And so far, and some of the spells, but but when you start getting boons from being heroic, that's going to change. Like,
Okay.
so we do have equipment. You start with 7 pieces of equipment and have 10 equipment slots total. Uh, Now, 3 to 5 of your equipment slots are dedicated to specific things. 2 hand slots and 1 to 3 armor slots. And here's where the price of heavy armor comes in. Armor will take up as many slots as the protection bonus it gives. So I think that answers the earlier question I had.
Mhm.
Now, when it comes to regular equipment, anything that has a C here is a consumable equipment, meaning you can only use it once and then it's removed from your equipment slots. They do have an optional rule on where you could offload gear if you exceed slots. A boat or a raft can hold up to 20, but only on water zones. Carts can hold up to 3 additional equipment slots, but not on water zone. Must roll strength when traveling for 3 days or lose 1 equipment. Hirelings can hold up to 3 equipment slots, and mount/pack animals can hold up to 2 equipment and will allow you to move far while riding, but cannot move in difficult terrain. So with armor, like I mentioned, you're getting 1, 2, or 3 protection, plus an additional 1 if you go with a shield. With weapons, you're either doing 1, 2, or 3 damage. Not 3 damage, just 1 or 2 damage. But then we have Renown, which is what you're really going to be chasing as a hero.
Oh yes.
So, first off, you get Renown by performing heroic deeds. Each one will give you 1 Renown for the region that you're in, and half that amount for the whole world. Now, accolades track divine favor, whereas Renown is a social currency that builds over time. It reflects how the world responds to you as a hero. As your fame grows, doors open that were once closed, and more people are willing to aid you. You gain renown benefits such as the following, depending on how much renown you have. 1 to 2, hospitality. Get free lodging, food, and basic supplies in a town where heroes are known. 3 to 4, plus 1 to rolls when speaking to mortals, and gain the favor of artisans who will craft, repair, or heal at no charge. 5 to 6, plus 2 to rolls when speaking to mortals. Rally a small militia, guards, or volunteers to aid in a specific quest. 7 to 8 renown, political favor. Gain an audience with a ruler, noble, or guild leader that will consider the hero's requests with favor. 9 to 10, land and title. Be granted land, a title, or an estate, and or a statue, cementing the heroes as legends in the region. I always like these kind of things in games.
Mhm.
On the other hand, accolades represent divine favor, i.e. how much the gods like the heroic things you're doing. And accolades are granted to you and each individual hero when performing extraordinary deeds that uphold justice, protect the innocent, and advance the cause of good. If you do not contribute to heroic deeds, you will not get accolades. Now, the Oracle determines when accolades are awarded based on the significance of the actions and their alignment with the values of the gods. Usually a heroic deed will grant 1 accolade. No more than 2 should be distributed when accomplishing a heroic deed, and no more than 5 may be saved per hero. Accolades are a divine currency, which you can spend to perform miraculous feats, and we have a few examples here. 1 accolade, change fate, so reroll a failed roll or add an additional die to a failed roll. 2 accolades, blessing, gain a temporary divine boon. 3 accolades, divine gift. You're given a divine gift of equipment of the oracle's choice. Uh, divine aid at 4. Call the gods for assistance with a seemingly impossible task. Or resurrection. Um, each hero must sacrifice one of their accolades, and the fallen hero must sacrifice 2. Then we have corruption, the entity. You can gain corruption as a negative effect. And the more that you have, the more disadvantages you go with. If you get 7 corruption, you are completely corrupted and become an NPC. Though you can atone to get rid of it through things like self-sacrifice, cleansing corrupted sites, sacred rituals, or sacrificing a divine gift. Speaking of which, divine gifts. This would be, I guess you could say these would be the equivalent of magic items or epic boons.
That sounds about right. Falling star. That looks hilarious. A comet streaks across the sky and crashes near the heroes, revealing a weapon or amulet forged in the celestial fires of the gods.
That's almost like the tools we need don't just fall from the sky. Plop.
Oh, I didn't realize that we were epic heroes in the tri-state area.
Rufus. But of course, with each of there are a set of divine gifts that are each tied to one of the different callings. And each of them is either a weapon or takes up a certain slot. Although the fact that there's 5 of them means you could roll a d6 to randomly get it, and if you roll a 6, you just re-roll. These are technically... I like that they are keyed to the different classes. Or callings, I should say. And there is at least 1 weapon, it seems like 1 armor, and then slot items. Let me... Though I do like what we have here for Dawnblade. A massive blade forged in the light of the first sunrise. Its edge sharp enough to cut through darkness itself. The sunrise rejuvenates the blade. Or the...
Like they definitely put a lot of... I like the metronome for the Chronomancer.
Yeah, let me go back and see that one. Metronome. The gods purified the lands while in rhythmic unison with one another. Within this mallet lies that power. Completely still until struck against its target, it has the ability to stop what is in motion or make what isn't move. So attacks move the damaged enemy in the same zone every round to near until they succeed at a Strength 9 roll. Once per combat, after dealing damage to an enemy, that enemy must roll Strength 9 or be stunned. Once per session, all enemies in the zone that you are in must make a Strength 9 roll every round or be knocked down until failure. This lasts the duration of the combat. So, between divine gifts, your calling abilities, which it looks like you get all of them, and your ancestry abilities, you've got quite the roster. you have quite the kit. And after that, it does go into the Oracle's Guide, as well as advice on creating your own quest, establishing an obstacle, the way travel would work, and it gives an example, including the nomadic republic, as well as the nature of safe havens and an example of how the safe haven might be used. Then a setup for minions, as well as other enemy types. So enemy types are minions, elites, bosses, and legendary. And they do give a guideline for the number of enemies to pit against heroes. And how many of each enemy type is equivalent to 4 heroes present.
Hmm.
And they also say add an elite for every 4 divine gifts a party has in total for medium and hard difficulties. Though I do wonder how this would change if you have a party greater or lesser than 4. And then we have an example of minions. Once again, I do very much like the art that we've got for this.
It's very nice.
Then minions, then elites, then corrupted elites. I'm pretty sure the corrupted gnome here is living in someone's nightmares. And the same thing for the corrupted halfling. Then bosses, and then finally legendaries. And a example quest, along with combat, the zone setup, which is very nice. And that is where we reach the end for Mighty Heroes of Old. So, based on everything we've seen, what do you think? Joe?
Yes.
What's your take on what we've seen for...
It looks really good. Like, the only thing I'm very curious about is what other things we can do as actions in order to take advantage of like things that give us free actions and the like.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, like it's really solid. Like I'd love to see a play of this.
Yeah. I think when it comes to the spread of per combat, per day, and passive abilities, there are some that are more favored than others. I think I think one trap I could see happening is somebody looking at the callings in isolation. It's clear that the intent is that you look at the combination of effects you're getting from your calling, your ancestry, and any divine gifts that you get. I am very glad that the God Hand rule letting you recharge a power is in there. Otherwise, I would have some significant problems with how many powers are limited to once per combat or once per session.
Even then, right? Like there's a lot of that's going to be so uncommon. Not exactly rare, but definitely uncommon that like you can't really rely on it.
Hmm.
Not unless you like, and there's not even a means of like really forcing it, except for the Fate Weaver. Fate was it Fate Weaver? Fate something or other.
Hmm.
Who can literally like have you roll 4d6 and then pick two of them.
Yeah, and of course, anybody who's doing that is not gonna say, "No, I want to pick the the non sixes."
Mm-hmm.
But it's the action economy in the passives is somewhat odd, but those are really the only issues that I have, and even then, it's kind of a stretch. So
Just a bit.
even with those, that's not enough to knock it down a peg. I would be willing to put Mighty Heroes of Old as a strongly recommended.
Yes. Like I definitely would want to give it a shot and see like what all you're able to do in the system.
Hmm. But
I
when
am a little curious how you can have a 3-page quest guide though. Like is this just to give someone a taste of it? Like what's going on here?
I think that was just a sample quest.
Hmm.
Which is certainly nice. But we are going to take a brief break, and then we'll be getting into Inevitable, a doomed Arthurian Western. So, see you in a few, folks.
See you later.
者の赤棒だマニアの自分ばらまりだ
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
So for this one, Inevitable, I will disclose the fact that I did back it on BackerKit during its run. This comes to us from Soul Muppet Publishing, who I haven't been able to set up an interview with them, but I'd really like to. They do good work. But this one, the page count may appear large, but it is a single column thing. So it's not. So I know it says 288 pages. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be that much of a issue. Plus, there's going to be some stuff that we skim just because of policy. But this does have a proper set of bookmarks. Let me scroll to the end to see if it has. Okay, it does not have an index in the back. But yeah, we have a. I'd say this is very much fulfilling the Weird West that you wanted, just from the aesthetic. It opens. Knights and wizards have defended the kingdom of myth for centuries. These lands have known peace and prosperity, but soon the kingdom will be no more. The prophets have declared that your city shall burn and myth will fall. All those who follow your king shall die. It is inevitable. But you shall defy fate. Myth will not end while you bear arms. You will fail, but as long as there are still stories, they will sing of you.
I like that.
So they say the
Art
last
style's really nice.
They say the last great civilization will soon be left in dust and ruin. They say once the city falls, that remains which will be sandblasted and dust-bitten. Mankind will survive, but these are the waning days of the kingdom of myth. Since the twin cities of progress and virtue fell to depravity centuries ago, only myth remains. That ancient and beautiful bastion amongst the arid and hostile land of the barren. All other great realms of humanity are destroyed or impossibly distant beyond the wide deserts at the edge of the world. Myth has waned since the Battle of the Violet Fields, where King Malavan was slain by his treacherous brother, the cannibal saint. Now Malavan's son, the sickly and cursed boy king Rubain, rules from the mythic throne, and soon his citadel will be sacked and left to smolder. His knights and his wizards, heroes all, will be worth nothing when his city burns. The starry-eyed prophet spoke with a single voice. First, the Oracle of Carcass, then the Blue Witches of the Cradle, then Sir Y the Bone Thrower, then the snow-browed Sorcerer of Noble, and finally Kahar the Stargazer, the king's foremost advisor, declared it so. Rubain will be the last king of myth, and his kingdom will fall. Those who remain in Nightsholm will be the last of the errant order. Those who do not abandon or betray their boy king will die. Fate has set the stone, and the only true law in these lands is the word of prophets. This doom is inevitable. Myth's enemies are bountiful. Foul wizards conspire from their blighted towers, scrying the land with ill intent. Cannibal cultists lurk in the wastes, singing praises to half-forgotten gods. Anarchists gather the people, inspiring rebellion and declaring the end of kings. The errant and mystic orders grow restless, waiting impatiently for the war that the prophets say will end myth. Monstrous armies amass in the Cradle Range, soon to sweep down and burn the land. Your heroes declare that what is foretold will not come to pass. You will defy prophecy. Myth will not end while you bear arms. So, this is definitely Arthurian in theme, but it isn't trying to recreate the names, which is honestly a smart way to do it. Once again, we're going to be using D6s. And they go into 18 facts of the Baron regarding genre, the kingdom of myth, how magic works, the effect of prophecy, the geography of the Baron, and the cannibal saint. So it is a fantasy western, has the trappings of a fantasy kingdoms, but with western aesthetics. White deserts, cowboy hats, and revolvers. And I've seen some people say that this kind of genre mixing is something you can't do, and I'm like, why? There seems... Within the game design space in parts of the, for lack of a better term, West, there seems to be this mindset that genres should remain segregated from each other. And it's something I've never understood. But but Inevitable is set in what they're calling a apocalyptic fall of a decaying conservative society, but also post-apocalyptic. Before myth, many other civilizations had fallen. Relics of ancient technology can be found, especially in places like Hubris, the steel ruins of Carcass, or in the hands of wizards.
Mm-hmm.
But myth is a civilization that is falling apart. It is served by two orders, the Errant Order, knights who defend myth's people, and the Mystic Order, a cabal of wizards who bent to order who serve the crown. There's also the oral tradition of tale weavers. Myth also cares deeply about honor and adores the knights and tales of them. Magic comes from the world's two moons, Constance and Urza. There are songs sung of a third moon, forgotten or hidden from sight. Elements, concepts, and people have secret names in an ancient language called Old Tongue. Wizards evoke these names to compel the spirits, but are widely reviled as power-hungry and evil. Joe, did you ever read the Earthsea novels?
Yes.
I'm immediately thinking of True Names.
Yep.
With the way they describe this. Let's see. When worshipped and sacrificed to, names of power gain demon-like sentience and become gods. Their servants are called godsmen, leading flocks of worshippers. So we have the belief is power kind of thing, a la Warhammer as well. But then the whole thing of prophecy. And essentially, when you know the end is coming, how do you react to it? But then we have the geography of the Baron. There's a whole lot of wasteland surrounding myth. And of course, the whole nature of the cannibal saint, If there's anybody who would fall into the realm of this setting's Mordred, it'd probably be him. Although we don't really have a Arthur in this setting because Rubain is who was put on the throne well before he was ready, is not Arthur.
Mhm.
Also, I do like the design of the blue lightning gun we have here. A revolver that that is firing lightning. But then the 18 people of the Baron, the 6 people of myth, the 6 people beyond myth. I like that each one has 3 tags next to them. And 6 people from the Tales. So if you look at what we have here, you do see some parallels to the Arthurian cycle, but it's not trying to replicate it completely. That I like.
They're making their own thing while still keeping true to the idea of it all.
Mm-hmm. Then going into what to do with the setting and at the table. But each short session is referred to as a quest given by an NPC, such as defending a village, bringing peace to a ghost, or defeating a wizard. By challenging him to a gunfight at the haunted mountaintop. So even in this Weird West setting, we still have pistols at dawn. Each quest has a threat, an obstacle preventing you from finishing it. And quests can have 3 steps: setup, build up, and showdown.
Mhm.
The setup, you're establishing the stakes. The build up, you're gathering what you need to face the threat, overcoming challenges to get showdown tokens. These will form the bulk of the adventure, and then the showdown, draw guns at high noon and face the threat. If the threat is defeated, it will be at a cost. And they do go into the different types of quests. World quests, which are they describe as like side missions in a video game. Doom quests, where you're dealing with something tied to one of the Doom prophecies. Stepwise, basically smaller quests to tackle a Doom quest, and the Fall quest, where you're trying to stop the fall of the Kingdom of Myth. You would kind of arrange these in certain ways to make almost a season of episodic sessions, and I feel like that's the intent. Almost a tiers and tentpoles kind of way.
Definitely looks like that.
Mm-hmm. And of course, your character's deeds come with reputations, which is how you're spoken about. They can aid in a challenge or make a challenge more difficult. You can change it at a cost in showdowns as your position changes. Some reputations are negative, but I feel like reputation is almost a better version of aspects that you'd see in Fate. I say a better version because it's not as all-encompassing. On the other hand, showdown tokens, which you get when you succeed at a challenge, these can be gained through stepwise quests as well, and a subvariant of them called Doom tokens through Doom quests. And it does seem to be a escalation. Showdowns for a threat Stepwise quests give you Doom. Completing Doom quests gives you Fall, which is a bit of a I can see what the intent is. Of course, each quest has a threat with a number showing how dangerous it is, ranging from 6 to 18. A threat
I
number
guess
could...
that's their magic number of 6 through 18.
The roamer named No Wit is threat 6, whereas the Great Drake is threat 16.
Hmm. If a threat ever exceeds 18, the final days of the doom begin, and the cadre should prepare for the final confrontation. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
Dang it, I couldn't hit mute. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. These things happen. So we have so when it comes to the scenes, we have the setup, the build-up, potential social quests, and the refresh. Some abilities have a once per refresh limitation. Once a showdown's finished, you can refresh and use those abilities again. Some are once per Doom refresh, meaning you only get them back after a Doom quest is finished. Now, challenges are the main kind of dice roll that you are rolling. And it is very much a case of you're rolling your pool, taking the highest result. If your pool has 0 d6, then you roll 2d6 and choose the lower one. If you roll 1 to 3, you suffer a consequence and fail at your task. 4 to 5, you suffer a consequence and accomplish your task, getting a showdown token. And a 6, no consequence, and you still get a showdown token. Since you're rolling and picking the highest, this gives a very strong vibe to Blades in the Dark and just the Forest in the Dark engine. But in terms of building your dice pool, you get 1d6 if you have a reputation that'll help you. You can only use each of your reputations once per refresh. An additional if you have a piece of equipment that'll help you. If you put yourself in danger to succeed. If you fail, the quest threat goes up by 1. 1d6 if an ally puts themselves in danger to help you. If you fail, they suffer a consequence with you. You lose a d6 if you're hindered by a reputation. This can only affect you once per session. Good. I could see that getting abused otherwise. You lose 1d6 if it's a unusually dangerous or challenging task, and 1d6 if you're facing the challenge alone away from your cadre. So this is more about context than it is about raw stats, making this game a bit more on the narrativist side of things. Some people are going to have a problem with that. I'm not one of them.
You won't hear any complaints from me.
Mm-hmm. But a showdown is a one-on-one confrontation. The player and GM negotiate a cost, and the player rolls to see the results of the showdown. To win a showdown, you have to roll higher than the success threshold, which is equal to the threat minus the number of showdown tokens you've gathered. And the player has to go into what they're willing to lose while facing the threat. This will give a bonus between +1 and +5, depending on the scale of the cost. Reputation, skills, and equipment do not factor into showdown. So if you rolled less than the threshold, you fail. If you match, if it's between the threshold and threat number, it's a success at a cost. and if it's greater than the threat number, a success. So remember that the threat is the baseline. The threshold is what the target number is after you negotiate costs and spend the showdown tokens. And of course, rolling a 1 always results in a failure.
Always.
But if you fail, you can attempt a second showdown, which works the same way, except any one character can participate. The same character doesn't have to. All showdown tokens are retained. A new token is gained. But you don't get any benefit from the first showdown's cost, and you have to offer a new cost. I do love that with the success, you defeat the threat and save Myth. For now.
Mm-hmm. Because it's never guaranteed.
Mm-mm. But also, I do love this. I do love this shot here. This is very much that climactic kind of showdown, which is what is intended here. There's a very strong art direction with this game.
Mm-hmm.
But they do give a few examples of what a cost might be. I am glad this is in here because a problem that I have with Fate, to a lesser extent Blades in the Dark, and a lot of narrativist games is when they give some sort of narrative effect, but they are extremely vague about examples or guidance. And every time I bring this up, I get gaslit by people saying, oh, the game's trusting that you can figure it out on your own.
Don't trust me like that. I want to see your rules. I want to see how all the examples.
Mm-hmm. Like, I understand not wanting to handhold. I get it. But not wanting to handhold is not an excuse for not giving any guidance, period.
Right.
Which is most definitely something I've seen. That was something I was critical of when it came to Candela Obscura, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Where it felt like it was very dependent on the genre savviness of the table. And yes, I consider Fabula Ultima to have this exact same problem. If anything, it's worse there. But moving past that, I do love the rifle we have here. Oh,
Definitely very nice.
it looks. I'm going to assume it's a revolving barrel. Otherwise, it's a bit odd that I only see one trigger.
They call her Landloper. Long are her legs. The spirit that lives within this gun was once a wild stallion. Ooh. A creature of the prairie, lord among beasts. The gun knows not the will of man. She does not kneel. They never laid a saddle on the Landloper. She bucks under the control of her wielder. Only with love, care, and a stern hand will she fire straight and true. There is no oat or sugar to assuage her, but when she is fully tamed, she'll fire the fastest bullet in the land. It's fluff, but it doesn't tell you anything.
They do give a full quest example, as well as end game. When the threat of one of the dooms passes above 18, we enter the end game. If this goes badly, it could prove the climax of the fall quest and the final events of the campaign. This will be some kind of epic event, likely a battle of some fashion, where the cadre leads the forces of Myth against their enemies. Preferably, this occurs on the violet fields outside Myth or within Knight's Home itself. An endgame is resolved as a series of 3 or more successive showdowns, each one with their own costs and their own roll. If any of these checks fail, you must take the roll again and keep rolling until myth falls or you reach 3 successes. Any costs offered that are even close to providing victory should be cataclysmic in scale. Make the bodies pile high. Due to the huge threat in place, the biggest bonus you can earn from a cost being 5+, it is impossible to score above the threat in a showdown roll. Even if the cadre have gathered in a fearsome number of showdown tokens, the most they can roll is an 11, 5 for cost plus 6 on a d6, and the threshold for full success will be at least 18. The party must embrace cost to save myth, and understand that a partial success is the only way to defeat these dooms. Which definitely is fitting for something called the end game. If characters survive an endgame, reduce the threat of all other dooms by 2 and give the party a session of aftercare to decompress. Which makes sense, and even the examples of successful endgames, it's a case of we won, but not easy. And while the destruction of myth is unstoppable, individual dooms can be stopped. Of course, if you fail, then the threat of the doom goes up by 2, and all other dooms by 1. Which there's definitely a vibe of even if you succeed at driving back a endgame, it is not a full success. It's more of a delaying the inevitable, and even then at great cost. But they do give a few extra things for things like defeat, survival, the growing legend, and the line. Also, I love this naked-ass revolver just called Moonshine. That handle does not make me feel comfortable.
No, not at all.
I mean, that's barely a revolver. It's a frame with it's. I mean,
it only has 2 shots in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it can only fire when its respective moon can see it. What?
But then we have characters and classes. It is interesting we have classes in this.
Alright.
I do like that they go into this whole play each class if you wish to do X.
So we have the Errant, the Mystic, the Godsman, the Tail Weaver, the Roamer, and the Candle... the Shadow Jack.
You did that joke last time.
You did that joke last time.
But... see, then it goes into making a character. And there's something very amusing about this art here of a full-on knight in a western town like this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I love this juxtaposition. But you have to pick a class, a background, then pick contacts, rivals, and allies. Then a deed, your equipment, and 3 reputations. If you're lucky enough to have a magic gun, you can generate that on the Guns in the Baron section. If you have a horse, the horse is of the Baron. And there's a big list of names, titles, and reputations to choose from. and I do like that they give plenty of guidance on that. But the errants are the knights of the king. Um, Though you have to choose: are you an aging knight, a newly anointed knight, or a rebellious squire? And you already have a set of contacts. Who considers you a friend or enemy? A deed that you did. Your starting equipment. Your sign of office is a sword of mythic steel. And you are known by 3 reputations. And you get 2 of a short list of abilities. Servant to the King, Oathsworn Knight, Indomitable, and Knight of Many Colors.
Huh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like how one of your weapons is can also be a rune-carved revolver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have the sword, but you also have a decent weapon. No.
Although I do have to read off the Sword of Mythic Steel. There are less than 200 in existence, and each weapon was forged in anticipation of its eventual user. Designed entirely to your specifications 2 centuries before you were born.
So you get to essentially choose what kind of sword you're wielding, whether it's a single-handed blade or a double-handed blade, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Or a hand-and-a-half blade.
Yep. But then we have the Mystic. So the Wizards of Myth. You could be a storied wizard, an apprentice, or a road mage.
Let's see.
And they have a implement that lets you channel magic. Is it a wand, staff, or something else? What elements of its construction grant it magical properties, and did you make it yourself? You could also get a rune-carved revolver. I'm pretty sure all of the heroes get it.
Or an unusual weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Such as a dagger, a sword, or a staff.
Yep. But they obviously have arcane power and then 2 other abilities. Or some of the general abilities, which are just going to be shared between all of the classes.
Lore Master. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. But with arcane power, you know names of power that can be used to cast magic.
It is Earthsea. What the... I'm not angry at it.
No. And since nobody's done a Earthsea RPG, to my knowledge, I'll take it.
Earthsea but Western? I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. Although, the way the names could work, someone could make the argument it's not far removed from the runes, but you're not paying the cost that the runes have in RuneQuest.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have Mage Shape, where you could transform your body, so they're not beating the Earthsea allegations here.
The transformation damages you physically. You can only transform once per week, and your transformation is not immediate and requires an hour-long ritual. No thanks.
See,
Like,
then,
I see the usefulness of it, but no thanks.
then the Godsman. You follow a god and lead the faithful. You are not a priest or a follower, but a godsman imbued with divine purposes and wielding great miracles. Ah. Are you either beloved in myth, despised in myth, or forgotten in myth? And they do give an example about creating your god. And it is made clear that gods in Inevitable are often about concepts or moments.
For a moment there, I thought that said Wand Breaker. I'm like, why is a dude named the Wand Breaker beloved by wizards?
Hmm. But we do have a few example gods if you want to go with them. There are the gods of myth and the gods beyond myth.
Mm-hmm.
Although I do one of the gods beloved by Northlanders is the Lady of the Slain.
Lenneth, is that you?
Plot twist, we're stuck with Priest.
Ah, fuck, we're doomed.
Because Silmeria is still nowhere to be found, or she's encased in a castle. But in context, deeds and equipment, you don't have a rune-carved revolver. Instead, you have either a sainted iron, a double-barreled shotgun that fires shot made of the teeth of your flock. What the fuck? Or an unusual weapon. You also either have the holy book of your faith or a suit of armor that shields you from the blows of heretics. You also get religious garb of fine cloth in the bright and holy colors of your faith, or an old coat and a big hat. I was gonna make a paladin. I was gonna make a paladin joke, but this feels more like a I was gonna say cleric, but no, this is a full-on priest.
Yep.
This is I kick ass for the Lord.
It's Shep from the Firefly. There it is.
Oh, Book. Shepherd Book.
That's it.
I've made no bones about the fact that he is one of my favorite holy man archetypes in fiction. Plus, I can't help but enjoy the whole... Aren't there specific rules against killing? Quite specific. It is, however, somewhat fuzzy on the subject of kneecaps.
Always one of my favorite characters.
But moving right along. They do use names of power that are tied to their god and its domains. And if you are beloved in myth, you have to obey the restrictions of the mystics. If you are despised in myth, you can disobey those restrictions, but it has the consequence of you're hated in civilization. Of course, you can also commune, you can get a flock, and once per doom refresh, you can beseech for a miracle. Then we have the Tail Weaver. This is our bard. I do like that one option is being a skald, so they understand bards better than D&D does.
Yep. A skald, a balladeer, or just a fresh-faced bard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is something that I actually really like. and kind of wish more games did. Contacts, like I know there's some that suggest you make your own, but having some like a named person in the world,
Mhm.
like, or at least examples of named people in the world that you can like call on, or at least that you can say that you know in order to help your reputation, since reputation is very important in this,
Mhm.
is very nice.
Yep. And I think the reason some want to play halfsies with it is the whole not being as defined when it comes to where your character is in a given setting, or wanting to do a certain amount of wiggle room. But I would argue, with some games especially, the looseness of contacts is less excusable. Like in something like, say, Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, everybody knows somebody because that's how stuff gets done when you're a merc. I get wanting to have wiggle room so that people can come up with your own, but throw me a bone here. And more importantly with this, I like that each of the list of contacts is different for each class. Same thing goes with deeds and equipment, as well as reputation. Uh, but they have a weapon that's tied to their tails, as well as a relic from the legends you tell. A musical instrument. I'm glad that it's not just a lute for the umpteenth time. Charcoal and vellum for transcribing songs, which is gonna... Why is that not brought up when it comes to bards? Or the latest fashions of the duchies, however they may appear. Makes sense. Or a tight-fitting coat and a neat hat with a bright neckerchief. But you know how there's the stereotype of bards sucking? I don't think that's a problem here because, well, for starters, you don't have to deal with the magic question, and also, the Tale Weaver here is firmly in what a bard or a skald or a troubadour is supposed to be. They're storytellers. The reason they're adventuring is to find more stories to tell. Also, to be the party's hype man.
Pretty much.
Then we have the Roamer, bandits and rangers of the wild. While all are criminals, the foremost among them are obsessed with theatrics and showmanship, hoping to earn a spot in the tales. So if you want to be the rogue, this is one way to do it. Once again, I do enjoy that there is some setting context to this rogue equivalent, and it's very much in the sense of, yeah, you're a bastard, but you're a bastard with principles. Sometimes. And as far as equipment, you have a gun of a unique design. Is it a rifle, shotgun, or pistol? And how did it come into your possession?
Is it a one or the other? The answer is yes.
You also have either a long spear or an unusual weapon. I like that that they've given different examples for an unusual weapon.
Pole arm? Well, I'll take a green dragon blade, thank you.
And having their particular setup for abilities. So I guess this would be an example of a rune-carved pistol on page 57 here.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense that they carved it into the handle and not into the weapon itself.
Yep. Then the Shadowjack. A sneak thief, a skulker, a rogue. How did a craven creature with little honor such as you end up here? You'll never be wanting for coin, but you'll rarely possess a glut of people who trust you. Be either
Makes sense.
a crypt digger, a spy, or a freeblade. You do have contacts, which I think for a character like this would be absolutely necessary. Although I do like the first deed that they have, stole a wizard's spellbook. Then your particular abilities. I do like part of the plan. You always have something up your sleeve. Or an even better one, someone else's problem.
I love the SCP field.
This never works in the long run, and the decision will always come back to haunt you.
But until then, it's somebody else's problem.
And in addition, there are a collection of general abilities. These are abilities that anyone can take in exchange for not getting one of your class-tied abilities.
Give me one moment.
No worries. But continuing on, we have a big-ass table of names and titles, 200 each. Which... How would you... They say you can roll from the list. How would you do that? There is no 200-sided die, unless you roll 4d10s and treat it like 2d100. And same thing with reputations. Very nice if you're just struggling to come up with those. And we do have the tenets of the mythic ideal. This is the cornerstone of mythic law. And the Knights of the Errant Order are sworn to follow these ideals to the last. But they are considered common law and decency by the upstanding subjects of the crown. So they are: defend the crown to your last, obey the commands of the crown. You're only as good as your word. Every lie told and oath broken diminishes the crown, with a traditional and modern interpretation. Welcome back, Joe.
Thank you, thank you.
The fourth ideal is serve justice and death to those who raise their hand against the crown and its subjects, which has a traditional and liberal interpretation. Act with grace in the house of your hosts. Treat all you meet with respect, even your foes. And your first love should be to the crown and no other. So this is basically their equivalent to the Code of Chivalry. As well as how some of the classes might treat the tenets. Because obviously, I don't think a Shadowjack is going to be holding to these tenets to the letter in the same way that a knight will. Then we have guns, magic, and horses. And of course, even in a setting like this, the call of dual wielding is inescapable.
Is that a staff on his back, or is it a rifle? That's the question.
I think that's a staff. I think we have a gun wizard. And I am here
Literally
for it.
casts gun. Oh, look, that's how a magic gun is made.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And there's almost a degree of difference between a standard gun and the guns of the Baron.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since there's plenty that are more esoteric, using unusual setups or not even firing regular bullets like this crystal gun we've got here.
Oh, it's Prism. That's the name of this gun.
Mm-hmm. And we do have a table for gunpowder / bullet components, as well as the name of a weapon, the powderer gun name. So one for mystic or relic weapons and one for powderers, as well as gunpowder / bullet components.
Rose and monster urine.
But when it comes to magic, magic is mechanically simple. It doesn't give bonuses. It's just a narrative effect that might affect the ways you approach a problem. It is scary and confusing, even in the limited form practiced by the Mystic Order. It involves forcing and manipulating spirits to react to your will. And this was something that was covered in some of the classes, the 100 names that wizards know or seek.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you have the true name of these things and can do effects. I am glad. I know that we got on Rune for having this sort of word-based spell effect thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have as much of a problem with it here.
So, one thing that I'll point out, right,
Mhm.
is all of these words are in alphabetical order until you get to number 100. Eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it almost feels like they went through the entire list and realized, oh, wait, hold on, I forgot E. Dang it!
That is certainly a possibility, but like I said, the way magic works here doesn't bug me as much as it did in Rune.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because of the fact that we have something more tangible than use common sense.
Yeah. I also like that the words of legend are all basically death by various means.
Mm-hmm. But the big difference between what we have, because both of these are essentially word-based magic effects. I won't say spells because it's not necessarily that.
Mhm.
But it answers the question of how magic works. And the principles are, all things have a soul or spirit, as well as a name of power that can be used to manipulate them. Some names belong to elements, others belong to concepts. Wizards that know the names of power of these spirits can use them to compel them to action. You create specially crafted instruments to channel the names, usually including elements of the names they know in their design. Even the most powerful
Literally
wizards... Yep, even the most powerful wizards might know as few as 5 names. The Stargazer claims to know 10. When these spirits are worshipped, they grow powerful and become gods. There are no things held sacred by all wizards. There are many secrets of magic outlawed in myth. And the source of magic is the 2 moons, Constance and Urza. And not Urza, Ezra. And magic is strongest under moonlight. Magic cannot create...
Ursa. Sorry.
Yeah.
At least it's not Mishra.
Fair. Magic cannot create something from nothing. To create something new, something else must be destroyed. Men and beasts have secret names of power that can be used to compel them. while compelling beasts is frowned upon, the mystics do not compel man. The Stargazer fears other wizards may use her name to control her, and has rendered it illegal amongst the Order. Prophecy cannot be defied, time cannot be altered, none may speak the name of time, it cannot be created or destroyed, lest the axiomatic truths of certainty and progression are undone. Without these truths, cause would not lead to effect, and prophecy would not occur. And the soul of man is tantamount and must not be split, destroyed, or shifted. There are exceptions to the laws through wizards beyond myth. Such as the idea that some wizards have conspired to command or destroy time. The secret name of time was known. It could be used without limit, and the axiomatic truth of if the secret name of time was known, the axiomatic truths would be undone. And the soul of man can be split, destroyed, or shifted to create terrible power. This split or destroyed soul can act as fuel to create potent magics or destroy a person utterly. Alternatively, a soul can be shifted or removed to create monsters, including constructs and the undead. So, again, having actual guidance on how magic is going to work and not relying on use common sense means that even if this is doing that similar kind of word-based magic, I don't have as much of a problem here, because there's something to ground it. At least that's what I'm seeing from this. And of course we have horses, which can range from nahats, which aren't very strong, but they are tough, which is why they're often used by roamers and crypt diggers. Or mythic steeds, which are described as taller and braver than common horses, but are more conspicuous and sometimes slower. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like a mythic steed would be akin to a warhorse, which are big boys. And they do give an example of what a myth campaign looks like. How to use dooms and adventure seeds. This is something that is going to be skimmed because it is essentially a bit of advice, though I do appreciate the wide cast of characters that they present. Also, on page 202, there's a very nasty-looking gun called Devil's Paintbrush.
Page 202?
Yep.
My goodness. Yeah, that I would say so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. As well as images of the different knights errant, and if you want, how you might want to use multiple NPCs. But I'm skipping to page 212, covering friends, foes, and monsters. But
I do like that big cast picture, though.
oh yeah. But the first we have is speaking birds. All birds once swore oaths of loyalty to the red-feathered king. In his absence, they are known as and feared as the friends and familiars of wizards. As beasts of quick wit, they are often compelled to spy and speak for their masters. Different species of birds are said to serve different factions. The red-feathered king is a massive bird that can that could be an ally to myth, or just something that's going to stir some shit. I don't know, but looking at him here, he reminds me of the Lord of Eagles in Lord of the Rings.
True enough. I like the gun we have here. Truth.
Mm-hmm.
From the Parliament of...
Not to be
This
confused
isn't
with the Court of
Gotham,
Owls.
man. This isn't Gotham. Get out of here.
Yep. But we also have the Crownless. These are settlers within areas of the Cradle Range who there have been attempts to integrate them into myth, but the Crownless have repeatedly said, "Go fuck yourself." And they tend to be nomadic because of the volcanic activity in that area, with 6 different clans. Also, I do like this gun here, Flannel Mouth.
That's hilarious. Made by a man of science.
Mm-hmm. Of course, then we have one big ol' image of drakes, the cousins of dragons of old. Some are slightly larger than cows, but they get bigger and smarter with age. Some are just predators, while others befriend wizards and become silver-tongued riddlers and tricksters. But then we have the
I like how
Radenfall.
6 is the magic number for all of this. My goodness.
It also means you could do a random d6 roll to generate one of these.
I think that's the point.
Or in the case of the 12 Roamer kings and queens, 2d6.
Mm-hmm.
Or just a d12 if need be. But then we have the matters of wizards and the specialties of wizards. Also a very nice oaken gun in the form of Grum. As well as several other potential threats. Including a Clockwork Knight if you wanted to go that far.
Ooh, they have 4 arms. I like that.
But then we have
Granger.
artifacts, which are what you'd expect them to be. We do have a dozen magic rings. Although it seems that each of these rings have knowledge of of secret names. Like the Ring of Fire knows the secret names of Smoke, Ash, and Death by Fire.
Ring of Thorns.
Yep. Which knows the names
Shadow.
of Hunger, Growth, and the Shadow Beneath Branches.
Speaking of Shadow, the Ring of Shadow knows the secret names for Dusk, Glamour, and Grasping Night.
Mm-hmm. But there's also the Heart of the Witch, which is essentially the manifestation of the Witch of the Woods.
There's our mythic blades.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then things like Hearts and Amber, Wizard's Fonts. There is no rain in Baron. The winds carry all water east to the Radden lands. There are 3 rivers. What little water there is left in the world is created by a wizard's font. Once a decade, a human must be sacrificed to feed the font. Normally a criminal, typically a murderer. If none deserving is available, lots are drawn amongst the old or infirm. They die
That's
horribly,
crazy.
and their suffering creates a feeble flow of water that will feed a small town. In myth, centuries ago, King Tartanier the Gift Giver threw himself into the font. It gave not a pool or a trickle, but a great river that flowed for a century. Every decade since it has ran dry, lots are drawn amongst the Knights of the Errant Order. The winner is fed to the font as a high honor. There is an option to abstain or withdraw, yet none do.
And they have a named person who willingly accepts the honor, but the queen apparently does not like it.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Plot point.
Yeah,
Quest hook.
There's definitely a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely a lot.
It goes to GM advice. And a few short stories that could help out.
This is really nice.
Along with, at the tail end, a section called Mythology, Monarchy, and the Apocalypse, which is basically answering what the game is about. And at the back end, a Appendix N. So, for those of you who don't know, Appendix N was a collection of books, films, and the like that could serve as reference material or to help establish a tone. It has been used since as a point of reference to help establish what the world is going to be like. And what we have here is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy.
Okay.
The story that has possibly the most evil character in all of fiction.
I've actually never read it.
Judge Holden is fucked up. I will put it that way.
Understood.
Also, I like Cormac McCarthy as a writer, but his stuff is very difficult to adapt. Whether because of being screwed up, or in the case of The Road, not something that lends itself well to a full movie. In fact, I've used The Road as a frequent example of what not to do when adapting. Because The Road is very much channeling Lone Wolf and Cub to an extent, though not as good as Road to Perdition did. Road to Perdition was great. And the problem is a lot of the book is highly built on atmosphere.
Got it.
That can work well in a book, and you can build a film largely on atmosphere, but it requires a certain level of finesse. But some of the other things in Appendix N are Wizard and Glass by Stephen King.
Makes sense.
Yep.
That makes sense.
The Matter of Britain, of course.
Of course.
Disco Elysium.
That's interesting.
Yeah, given how the factions and a lot of the factions in Disco Elysium are a powder keg waiting to go off.
I'll take your word for it. Red Dead, that makes sense.
Yep.
Dark Souls, that makes sense.
That definitely makes sense. Although maybe it's just me, but I feel like Elden Ring might make more sense than Dark Souls. For this sort of thing. Obviously Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. I can obviously see it. Small Gods by Terry Pratchett.
The Bard's Tale.
Yep. The Green Knight. Which
The Matrix.
Which I will agree with The Matrix to a point.
To a point.
Specifically, the first movie, and that's it.
That works.
And definitely not the Resurrections movie that nobody asked for.
Never even heard of it.
Oh. But we also bring up the Mass Effect games, which makes sense. You do have the
I can
growing
see it.
doom of the Reapers in that.
As well as the entire reputation aspect.
So
Blades in the Dark by John Harper.
Yep.
Nice.
I brought up Blades in the Dark earlier.
Mhm.
Polaris, Chivalric Tragedy at the Utmost North. If you got into indie tabletop in the mid 2000s, Polaris was a name that was going to get brought up a lot. It is massively influential.
I'll need to read it then. My goodness.
Yep. The Sword, the Crown, and the Unspeakable Power by Todd Nicholas and Thomas J. Yeah, I can see it.
Wraithlands by Stuart Leckie.
I don't think I've read that. And
Neither have I.
New History Warfare by Colin Stetson.
But no Earthsea? Come on.
Yeah. But I do like the spread that we have. Showing you fight for all this and more.
Shows the 2 moons, giant statues of influential individuals, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I like this tattoo-looking thing that they have for the character sheet.
Yep. We sing great tales of blank, who defended myth even when its doom was inevitable.
So that's where you put your character name. Okay, cool.
And abilities and equipment. Your contacts, deed, rival.
Class and pronouns. That's interesting.
But I like the thing they put at the back end. Good luck failing to save the world. And I will note that if I was to run Inevitable, the approach I'd take is the city of myth may fall, but the people of myth may survive. Either that, or take the approach of the city must survive from Frostpunk.
Yeah. Like, it really all depends on, like, what kind of story you want to tell as the... Did they have a specific name for the play? No, it's just a GM.
But that covers Inevitable. And I think I'd have to double check, but I could have swore for either this game or a different one I have, there was a tarot deck. I would need
are we just talking like a traditional Raider-Waite?
And if there was one, I don't have it. So I may have been
Understood.
thinking of a different game. So there have been a few that have used a tarot deck. But before I get into my thoughts on it, what do you think of Inevitable?
I honestly am very intrigued. The entire reputation aspect of it, as well as like all the little bits and bobs of giving you named characters your character could know, is interesting. Also, the fact that if you play a relatively long campaign, you could even have characters who died in the blaze of glory as like characters that or characters that had high reputation, just be ones that future characters can know. You are building your own world with this setup, and it can be very intriguing. But for the most part, I think something that I have a lot of hesitancy about is the fact that this, even though they give you a lot of building blocks and a lot of examples, depending on it's all dependent on the GM, obviously, how they want to run it. They could like take a look at all of this, see Arthurian, and decide, you know what, doing my own thing, which is great. It really is. But this is the kind of setting that almost doesn't really lend itself very well unless you do um, heavy customization, unless you do a lot of the legwork in order to make that work.
Hmm. Which,
So it's the opposite end of a open-ended game from what I can see. Like there's a lot of paths you can take it down, but if you're not following the setting and all of that, then it's just kind of there. But it's a very fun setting.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I had a bit of a discussion on this earlier today. When it comes to when people say, "Oh, I prefer to run my own setting," in some cases because they're afraid of doing it right, which I think is more of a self-inflicted problem. As long as I don't think you're gonna have lore hounds getting on you about how you run your game at your table, and if they are, they're probably douchebags. However, I will also admit that there are certain settings that can create a kind of continuity lockout, where it's hard to figure out where the player characters are going to fit. Legend of the Five Rings can have this problem to a point, but it does sidestep it with Emerald Magistrates, which means you can potentially have a party of different clans who are working together.
Yes.
And I think this is the reason why, with each of the 40k TTRPGs that Fantasy Flight put out, they each had their own region of space that they focused on. For example, Dark Heresy had the Calixis sector. Deathwatch had the Jericho Reach. Rogue Trader had the Cronus Expanse. There is whenever it comes to the whole whenever it comes to the setting question, I know some would prefer to run their own setting, though I think a lot of people who say that don't really have a setting. They have a set of bullet points.
Yeah.
Which is fine and all, just be honest.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I think there's something to be said about a game that is solely focused on one particular world, and is interested in only emulating that world in as detailed a manner as is reasonable. Inevitable is in that camp. There are some games that claim to be more agnostic, but really aren't. This is one of the reasons I keep getting on D&D about the setting question, because it claims to be setting agnostic, but in practice isn't.
It's not.
And creates more contradictions than it solves when people sell me on older editions of, oh, you can do just about anything, but then want you to play a specific style or have a specific kind of pacing. Which, again, nothing wrong with that, but don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining. And with this one, it is solely focused on its brand of the doomed western. And oddly enough, I'd say that people who are more familiar with the way fate is utilized in Norse myth will have an easier time with this.
Actually, you know what would be kind of fun to do with this?
What?
Gargoyles.
Would
Just
you have
utilize like elements from gargoyles in this game, and it would still work.
I wouldn't try and do what the cartoon did and try to bring gargoyles into New York City.
Well, no, but like they utilize Camelot and Avalon and all of that stuff, so they have a lot of Arthurian stuff and some other things as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things that you could do with this, since there's a lot.
I
I was just reminded of a bad Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah. Were you about to say King Arthur and the Knights of Justice?
Yes,
I knew it. I knew that would come up at
Arthur
some.
and the Knights of Justice.
Which I have trolled people by bringing up the fact that that cartoon is an isekai.
It is.
Then again, people also hate when I bring up that John Carter is an isekai.
John Carter, Wizard of Oz, Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, the concept of isekai is not new, just the term is.
Yankee in King Arthur's court.
Uh See, I want that kind of thing redone, but instead of some baseball kid, I want it to be a Japanese Yankee.
Well, I mean, a Connecticut Yankee, the original story. Not,
Mhm.
but yeah.
Oh, I know, but think of the insanity that you could get away with if you have it that a Japanese punk suddenly finds himself in medieval times.
I mean, there's been a number of similar isekais
Mhm.
where it has been a Yankee, but like the only thing that I'm thinking of like is the language barrier, right? It would be like a reverse of The Last Samurai.
On the other hand, one particular series that I find is underrated when it comes to that sort of thing is the 12 Kingdoms,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
which very reliably answered the language barrier question.
Mhm.
Uh, as well as the fact that that for certain people, when they go back to that world, they take the appearance they were supposed to. But the only other asterisk that I'd put with Inevitable is that this is a very narrative-centric game.
Oh, it is. For sure. If your DM doesn't want to do narrative, a narrative heavy campaign, this is not the system for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if but if you as a game master as well as your players are very heavy into the role play and storytelling aspect, as well as like deep diving into interesting lore tidbits and making things up within that sandbox, go for it. Definitely, I would heavily recommend. But if it's something along the lines of just want to play a system, uh,
Yeah.
maybe like it gives you enough here to like kind of randomize things with d6s, but at the same time, just this requires a very not really niche, but at the same time, I know a number of people who would love it, and I know a number of people who wouldn't like it.
Yeah.
So
This with a lot of narrativist games, they are going to require a certain degree of synchronicity with the players at the table.
mm-hmm.
Like you need to have people on the same page. And I'd say in a case like this, if you have people who have a degree of genre savviness, but also have read through like a primer so that they understand what the tone is going to be, it will be a little bit easier.
Yes.
I know I gave a strongly recommend to Mighty Heroes of Old. With Inevitable, it is a recommend.
Yeah.
Now, don't get it wrong. That doesn't mean it's not as good. It just means that there are a few more asterisks to account for.
Yeah. Like again, this would require people who want to play a very specific type of game,
Mm-hmm.
but it is something that I would recommend for people who like that kind of game.
Although, oddly enough, I would have it with both of these games. I would have an easy time bringing them into certain newcomers.
Yes.
If you're very much a story nerd, Inevitable is going to be a good fit. If you're very much a gameplay nerd, if you play a lot of console RPGs or the like, Mighty Heroes of Old is going to be closer to the mark.
Yes.
something I've mentioned before is part of the reason I don't do numeric scores is I style myself as a tailor when it comes to how I review games. It is not about how good or bad a game is, but how easy of a recommend and how many asterisks I have to put on that recommendation, how many qualifiers I have to put on whether or not I can recommend a game. And not every game is going to fit everybody. And anybody who tries to make a game for everyone will inevitably fail. They will be as doomed as Myth is in Inevitable.
Yeah. Because that place is doomed, but it will recover from that doom, and then it'll get doomed again.
Mm-hmm. But that will do it for this particular episode of The Valley. Let me see what we've got planned for next week. I believe it's another pair of one-shots. Actually, no. This is the last of our one-shot-a-thon. At least for a while. Next week.
Does that mean what I think it means?
Yep. Next week we start Weird West.
Yes.
This will. Now, for those who aren't familiar with it, Weird West is a mixture of the Old West and wuxia. It is using the D6 system that was pioneered by West End Games, which I have covered in the past when I covered the quick start for Planet of the Apes.
Weird West or Far West?
Far West.
Got it.
I don't know why I wrote Weird West in the schedule.
Well, because that was the term that I utilized for when I said I wanted a specific type of game.
Yeah. So that is my bad. Let me take care of that. So I'd say there are a few wuxia films that would be close to the mark when it comes to this, but the big one that comes to mind is The Man with the Iron Fists.
Mm-hmm.
I did ask good brother Brendan Davis, of a few others that might fit, and he did give me a few examples. Things like The Flying Dagger, which is yet another Shaw Brothers project.
Yep. The Flying Dagger or House of Flying Daggers?
The Flying Dagger. This was
from
1968.
Oh.
The Young Avenger from 1972, which he did a review of.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, there is a Shaw Brothers Cinema YouTube page that gives that has some of the Shaw Brothers films for free. And if you're studying wuxia film, the Shaw Brothers is a name that's going to come up. But other things like The Black Tavern, The 14 Amazons, Duel for Gold, The Black Enforcer, and Death Valley came to mind for him. There's also stuff that was a bit more blatant, like Delightful Forest, which pretty much samples an Ennio Morricone piece. And even stuff like Lady Hermit or Come Drink With Me, the Dragon Inn film, as well as its remake that it got in the 90s, and another remake in the 2010s with Jet Li, and One-Armed Swordsman. So there's a few that do it, and I specifically had Brendan do it because he is my most foremost guy when it comes to talking about wuxia and tianxia. I mean, he wrote several games on the matter, so he's and writes a whole blog reviewing those kind of movies, so he's definitely the guy. When I was doing the Ogre Gate campaign, he gave me a lengthy list of films to use as research material. So, he is definitely one of my go-tos when it comes to this sort of thing. And of course, at the end of the collab that I did with him recently, I somehow managed to get him interested in Sword World. and that is not an isolated case because of something I'll tell you later. But either way, there's going to be plenty to look forward to, and I may end up rewatching some of the Shaw Brothers movies to help prepare myself for next week.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Mhm. So, with all that said, as always, a sincere thanks to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there will be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here, on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Goodbye.